Yo, welcome to the Go Grab That Day YouTube channel and another episode of Kombat Kingdom, the newly named MMA segment. I almost forgot the name there, but takes a bit of getting used to. Hope everybody's doing well. Hope you're all staying safe and enjoying life wherever you may be. We have a lot of shit to talk about. As I have been saying, and as I'm going to say, until things get somewhat back to normal, we apologise for how quiet things are at the moment. Still getting our one video out a week, but it's just, like I've said on the last few podcasts, just working on things in the background. It'll all be explained at a later date, but right now, just gotta be patient with us. Keep supporting us, keep watching the videos, and I promise you some fun things coming. It's just can't be revealed at the moment. But yeah, we got some fights to talk about. So yeah, we'll get straight into it. Like I said, hope everyone's doing well. Please keep supporting us. If you haven't already subscribed, hit the button. It doesn't cost you guys anything, it just helps us in terms of getting guests on in the future and stuff like that, which, like I said, we are working on big time. Just a little slow at the moment, and it will be for another few weeks, just until, like I said, these plans hopefully fall into place. If not, you'll know. But yeah, but like I said, please keep supporting us, keep sharing the videos, all that kind of thing, and you will see the fun stuff we have coming down the line. I cannot wait to reveal them. Just taking a bit of time. But yeah, so we've a few fights and stuff to get in. As I said last week, I just want to try and hammer this home as well, that this is still the same MMA segment that I'm going to be doing every week. We've just changed the name to Kombat Kingdom, and what we're going to do for the future is still the Go Grab That Day channel, still all under the Go Grab That Day name. That's not going anywhere. It's just to make it easier for people viewing the channel and stuff like that with other things we're going to be doing. It's easier to name each segment that we're going to be doing. So, like, as I said, this will be solely MMA, whether it's whether it's just breakdowns or just MMA discussions, whatever it may be, it will all be under the Kombat Kingdom name, on the Go Grab That Day channel. It'll make more sense when more videos come out in the future. It's just obviously at the moment it doesn't make a whole lot of sense just yet, but it will. So yeah, Kombat Kingdom, let's start drilling that in. But this is technically episode 2, but it's a lot more than that. So anyway, enough shit talk, let's get into it. Hope you're all doing well, guys. Please keep supporting the channel. Subscribe, hit the like button, share it, tell everybody, tell anybody, please. But obviously we have a big fight card to get into, a ton of stuff to talk about. I'm not even sure where to start. Didn't put up a video last week because there was no fights. I just put up something on the Instagram. I wanted to put up like a video, just a regular chat, but there was no point. I figured save it all for this week, so we have a bit of a more packed episode rather than just making one for the sake of it last week. So yeah, like I said, a lot of stuff to get into. We'll start right from the top. We're going to run through I have some talking points, but I'm going to run through. Maybe I'll go through some of the talking points first, actually. Yeah, so I'm going to start giving out at first. So, yeah, first thing I wanted to talk about is a little bit, just took some notes throughout the fight card. One was, again, these ESPN analysts, is it Max Kellerman and Stephen A. Smith? I'm not a fan at all. I'd love to know what people think. I know they're huge. These guys are huge in America with the American football, and I think they do basketball and stuff like that. I know, in particular, I think Stephen A. Smith is a huge analyst for other sports. I just don't like him for MMA. I think it's far too obvious. There's so much better out there. There's one thing I wrote where Max Kellerman was talking about the main event, and he started quoting Rocky, the movie, saying how it was very like when Apollo fought Rocky, and it's a question of whether McGregor had the eye of the tiger. It was cringy to listen to. Like, it was. Yeah, I'm not a fan at all of these guys. You've got brilliant people there. Like, even get the females more involved with Laura Sanko, Megan Levy, all these. Let them guys talk more. Don't be bringing in these. I just don't like these Stephen A. Smiths and these guys, because I think they're full of shit, if I'm being brutally honest. they have enough in their lane over there with the basketball and the basketball and the football, and I think they do boxing as well for ESPN. I think, I'm not certain, but don't like it. Don't like them at all. Keep them in their lane. Stay out of the MMA. If you're not going to scrub up on it and have some better things to say rather than talking about fucking Rocky movies, I don't want to hear you. The other thing was, I felt like the card was, I don't know, was it just me, but it felt a lot longer. I felt like it was delayed. There's a lot of delay in between fights. I think the very first fight was after about half hour, 40 minutes. Which is I've never seen the UFC do that before. I hope this is not a new thing they're taking on. We're going to start being like boxing where there's big delays between fights. As it is, the fucking cards are long. I mean, you watch a early prelim card right down, you've got what, something like 15 fights or something. It's a lot anyway, put it that way. I'm not going to count them. But yeah, I hope that's not a thing they're going to start doing with delaying and stuff like that. But that's all it's not all my complaining, but that's what I start off with for now. But yeah, just not a fan of those things. But we get into the way I always do. We'll go from top to bottom, from the early prelims right through. Run through them kind of quick as usual. So Jennifer Maia, is that the early prelims? Yeah, Jennifer Maia defeating Jessica Ai via decision. Jessica Ai got a nasty cut. I think it was in the second round from an accidental headbutt. But it was nasty. Opened her right up as soon as the heads clashed. It just started pouring blood. So that didn't help her. She's gritty and she's tough. She just unfortunately didn't, especially at the start of the fight, she didn't use a lot of her tools. It was all like 1-2s, and her boxing, Jessica Ai's boxing is not bad, but I just didn't think she did enough. I thought Maia was trying to use more tools, different attacks and stuff like that, but I thought Jessica Ai was too reliant on her boxing. Maybe a little more kicks and stuff like that would have helped her. Of course, the cut didn't help either, but that didn't really bother her. I mean, she's tough as fuck. It wasn't a bad fight. That was actually quite fun. This next fight, Omari Akhmedov versus Brad Tavares, was a fun fight. Tavares getting the win, which I thought he looked great. Akhmedov kind of tired a little bit. I think somewhere in the second round. I don't want to say like he looked super fatigued, but he definitely did tire and slow down. Tavares' his attacks were very nice. It was heavy leg kicks. It just changed his attacks a lot. I like Brad Tavares. He's always been kind of an exciting fighter. Seems like a fun character too. So that was a fun fight and a good win for Brad Tavares. And then we had Jerome Rivera versus, I'm going to butcher this name, but Zalgas Zumagulov. The flyweight division. This was a fun fight too. Great finish to the fight. Round one where Zumagulov got a standing guillotine choke. Very tight choke. Got it in, sunk in deep, and was cranking on Rivera's neck as well. Rivera, if he didn't tap from the choke, he was going to tap from the way his neck was angled horribly. Zumagulov got it in super tight, and he was arching up, and yeah, Rivera tried to ease the pressure by kind of stepping up on the cage, but no, it was super tight. Really nice submission. Great finish to that fight. And yeah, even the commentary team, like Rogan, who's a big jiu-jitsu guy, was very impressed with that. So, as was I, but I wouldn't know as much as Rogan. And then running through... Sorry, 1 second. I did, sorry. I ran through that card back to front. I went the wrong way around with the early prelims, but anyway. Sorry, it's just the way it's set up here. I went from like the third fight to the first fight rather than first fight to the third. But anyway, you'll forgive me. So, moving on to the prelims. This entire card from top to bottom was quite fun. But opening up the prelim card, I think the early prelims are called the Fight Pass prelims, I believe. And then these are just the prelims. It's confusing sometimes. But yeah, opening up the actual prelim card, we had Trevin Giles versus Dricus du Plessis. However you pronounce that dude's name. But it's a pretty cool name, I just can't pronounce it. But and he said that about people after in his post-fight speech talking to Rogan, he was getting people to pronounce his name properly, saying that they won't forget it, which is true. Looks like a fun fighter, and that's it. That was a tough fight against Trevin Giles, and he got the KO in round 2. That was a fun fight for as long as it lasted as well, and a great win for that guy. Dricus du Plessis, that's how you pronounce it. Moving on. I was fucking disgusted with this fight. I was looking forward to Ryan Hall's return, the Wizard, for a long time. The guy's been trying to get fights for ages and could not get one, and the one guy that stood up was Topuria, Elia Topuria, I think that's how you pronounce it. No one else would fight Ryan Hall. Too dangerous a fight. But this guy took it, Topuria, and man, he got a vicious finish towards the end of, was it round 1? Yeah, literally just the last few seconds of round 1. Yeah, typical Ryan Hall, he was diving for the feet, trying to get a submission, which, you know that before he fights is what he always does. He was heavy on a real, throwing some nice kicks, but all to set up the sneaky submission. Just couldn't get it, and when Topuria did say before the fight like that, I'm a black belt too, and I roll with a lot of good black belts, saying he didn't fear Ryan Hall's submission game, which I'm not sure I believe, but he showed some good ground upon, which got him the win in the end. Heavy, and he put Ryan Hall to sleep, which I wasn't happy to see, but that's the fight game. You hear a lot of these guys, I've heard Dominic Cruz say it, and Ryan Hall has said it previously as well, that ring rust is not a thing where, guys spend time out of the cage or the ring and doesn't really affect them, but I tend to disagree. I think it has to affect you if you spend some time out of real combat. You can train as hard as you like, but when you spend that long out of the cage, it's got to affect you in some way, and it looked like it affected Ryan Hall. But still a dangerous guy at featherweight, so hopefully he'll come back stronger. Moving on to what I thought would be, I wasn't disappointed with this fight, but I thought it would be fight of the night. Nico Price versus his name's spelled wrong. Michel Pereira, I think is how you pronounce it. My partner will most likely correct me on later. But Nico Price versus Michel Pereira. Us Irish just can't pronounce these names. But anyway, fun fight. As advertised, it was a lot of fun. Great win for Pereira. It was he kind of took over a little early. He was doing well. He was establishing a nice jab, and he looked strong in the clinch. But like he does in a lot of his fights, he got tired. Even towards, I think midway through the second round, he got super tired, and by the end of the fight, he was gassed, super gassed. In my opinion, he won the fight fairly. I think it was 2 rounds to 1. He won the first, the second, and he lost the third. From what I remember, in my opinion, he did. Nico Price is always a fun guy to watch, and that fight was fun. In terms of Pereira, I don't know what to make of that guy. He irritates me sometimes, but then he's got so much potential as well. So explosive, such a big head, does some really explosive, fun movements, but then at the same time his gas tank suffers because of it. So I don't know what to make of the guy. I don't know, can you really change the way he fights? Or can you adjust it a little bit? Because, which was a good point the commentary team were making, that when he was getting tired, he was still trying to do these big jumping explosive movements. But that's like his default thing when he gets tired. Some guys, not naturally when they're super tired, they'll just maybe wing punches, or they'll shield up, or they'll go for a takedown. Everybody has different ways. But if this is how this guy trains all the time and what he's used to doing, that's his natural go-to thing, is to use an explosive movement when he gets tired. But of course, that's contradictory, because it's going to fuck him over in the end, is what I'm trying to say, is because when you're tired, you want to recover. Using heavy movements does not, using explosive movements just makes you even more tired. But I don't know, he's got serious potential. I just don't know what he's got to change. I do know what he's got to change. He's got to work on his cardio, and maybe ease off on the explosive movements and the jumping and things like that, which, to be fair, he was a lot better in this fight and his last fight. Much improved, not as wasteful with energy. He did still throw a couple of, he threw like a rolling thunder, is that what they call it, or a rolling thunder, I believe, where you roll and try and catch the guy with a kick. I think that's what it's called. So he still did that, which, I mean, it's very rare they're gonna land. I just think if he made it more technical, like his explosiveness is gonna be there. You know, if he made it a little more technical, like using his kicks, low kicks to high kicks, stuff like that, I think he's a dangerous fighter. But just a little, he's a little too Hollywood. He's too Hollywood. That's it. Yeah. But nevertheless, he's fun. He's fun TV. He's always fun to watch, as is Nico Price. So this is great matchmaking by the UFC, and it was a fun fight. And listen, Pereira still got the win. So I can say all I want. Still got the win. You know, you can't like discredit him too much, and he is definitely improving. That's for sure. He is, what age is? I think he's like 26 or 20. He's 27, I believe. Yeah. So still young in the sport, has a lot of room to improve. I mean, he could fight until he could fight for another 10 years if he wanted to, if he's healthy. But that's a good win, and ever improving. So he did. The main thing for me was obviously calming everything down, but he always looks quite strong in the clinch, which I like. But yeah, good performance, good win, good fight. Then to close out the prelims, we had Carlos Condit versus Max Griffin. This was another fight that I found real fun. Max Griffin was kind of establishing his game early, landing some pretty heavy leg kicks. It was strange because Carlos Condit was, every time he would take a leg kick, he would spin. Which, again, the commentary team had said that maybe that's a technique that he doesn't like to check them. He likes to just let his leg go with the kick, if that makes sense. It doesn't really help people, it's still going to hurt like fuck. But yeah, he got spun quite a few times, and it wasn't looking good from after the first round. But he came back into the fight, and he made it really fun. I like watching Carlos Condit. I always have. He's not the same fighter he once was. The guy's been in such wars, but fought some of the best in the business. I mean, if you think of his like Robbie Lawler fight, which was insane, a lot of people think he won, which I see the argument for that too. But he turned this fight into quite a fun fight. He started to kind of come back into his catching Griffin with a few shots, and it looked like Griffin was getting a little tired. Condit's quite a hard guy to read too, but if you asked me before the fight, I would not have thought this was going to be a great night for Carlos Condit. I just think Max Griffin being so powerful, and obviously he's a guy kind of on the come up, whereas Condit is sort of on the way out. But yeah, he made it a fun fight. It was enjoyable to watch. I enjoyed watching the way he was striking and moving and stuff like that. But yeah, made a fun fight, but good win for Max Griffin. Then I'm kind of moving through these a little quick. Oh, excuse me. So yes, moving on to the opener of the main card, which was Sugar Sean O'Malley versus Chris Moutinho. You know, I love it when I don't love it, but in this case I loved it because I put up a video on the Instagram during the week about how, you know, this is going to be a horrible night for Chris Moutinho, and how, you know, Sean O'Malley was going to piece this dude up and it's going to be an easy fight for him. I wasn't entirely wrong, but my God, did Chris Moutinho make it a fight. He took everything Sean O'Malley had, took every shot that he had and kept coming. I couldn't believe it. He didn't really put Sean O'Malley in any major trouble, but he definitely made it a fight, which he had no right to make it a fight on 11 days notice, just coming into the UFC for his first fight. But it's cool to see, because you see that the kind of talent that is out there, you know, outside the UFC. Like, I don't know, was this guy going to get a shot unless Sean O'Malley had no opponent, so you never know. But he certainly has gotten people's attention now. He's certainly got my attention. As a fan of the sport, I was rooting from the end of the first round, because they showed such heart. Obviously, great win for Sean O'Malley getting the finish. The thing with the finish is, I wasn't happy with it, and normally I'm the other way around. Normally I like to see fighters be saved, and I'll always say this, I will always say this, that I prefer to see a fight stopped a little early than a little late. 10 out of 10 times I would rather see a fight stopped too soon. There's many arguments for this one, but I just think if if you're Herb Dean and you're going to, like, stop the fight at 4 minutes and 33 seconds of round 3. And if you've let it go that far, why not let the guy go out in the shield? You know, if he gets, I know you're saving the fight. That's Herb's job. Herb is the best in the business. Some people I respect a lot, you know, in MMA and stuff like that, they have said the same thing, that it was a good stoppage. I'm not going to entirely argue with you, but I think if you're going to let it go for fucking 4 minutes 30 seconds, let the last 30 seconds go. He was taking some shots, but he was in the pocket where he wanted to be, to brawl with Sean O'Malley. So I let him brawl if he goes out in his shield, you know. But again, it's easy for me to say Herb Dean is in there getting paid to protect fighters. So again, much prefer to see him stop it a little too soon than to see Sean O'Malley landing heavy shots where it's, you know, the guy is pretty much out on his feet. He looked okay to me, but he had taken an ass whooping for that entire fight. I just wanted to see it finish for Moutinho's sake, because he had gritted it out that far. Yeah, I felt bad for him, to be honest, but I am not in any way, I'm not like shitting on Herb Dean saying, oh, terrible stop. It was not a terrible stoppage. Would like to have seen it gone a bit further for his sake, but Herb is one of the best in the game and he knows what he's doing. And obviously protect the fighters as much as you can, but he deserved to either get knocked the fuck out or go out on his shield. And I know it's not good to get knocked out, but I mean, let him go out, you know, whatever way he wants, I suppose. But he has gotten a lot of people's attention. He is not going to be a fun guy for anybody to fight. Like, Sean O'Malley is one of the best in the business right now, on the rise. And for Moutinho to take everything he had, like, there's so many other fighters could not take Sean's shots. They couldn't take the kind of shots that Moutinho was eating up no problem, smiling at him, walking after him, putting pressure on O'Malley. I think in the first or second round, O'Malley was looking up at the clock a bit. And he had stopped all his showboating and stuff like that. No, he still landing a shitload of punches, jabs, 1-2s, yeah, clear as day, easy. But the kid made a fight of it, which is great to see. And what a way to announce yourself into the UFC. Now, should you fight like that all the time? Absolutely not, or you're going to have a super short career. But it's just, I think it was 10, 11 days notice against Sean O'Malley. Not easy, but he's got my respect. And I've tried to get in there as quick as possible to see if I could convince him to come on the podcast, but I'm sure that guy has gotten so many messages now in the last 24 hours that he hasn't even seen mine. But it's okay. But yeah, no, that was a fun fight, and that got fight of the night actually, didn't it? I believe it did, which I was glad to see, just for the sake of Moutinho getting the bonus, and the bonuses were a little bigger too. They were 75 million, 75,000, sorry, 75 million, whereas they're normally 50,000, so it went up. I think it's just for this card though, which is kind of shit. Be nice if you put it up for all fights. But yeah, credit to Moutinho, nice to get a bonus like that, and nice to drag Sean, to go 2.5 rounds with Sugar Sean on your first fight in the UFC. And then our next fight was women's bantamweight, Irina Aldana versus Yana Kunitskaya. Yana Kunitskaya, who is Thiago Santos' wife or partner, one or the other. But good fighter. She came out of this at the start of this fight looking really well, throwing heavy kicks, putting heavy pressure. But Aldana she's pretty crisp with her boxing in her hands, and eventually got the TKO towards the end of round 1. She had busted Kunitskaya's nose. There's a lot of blood coming out of it, but by the end of the fight she was landing heavy shots. I can't remember whether Kunitskaya went for a takedown or Aldana took her down, but something happened where they ended up on the ground and Aldana just started landing heavy ground and pound. She hurt her, and it was a good stoppage. But I think I had picked on somewhat of a prediction earlier in the week that Aldana would take that fight. I thought she would. But sorry. But Kunitskaya came out looking really well at the start of the fight. Just boxing just paid off in the end for Aldana. Moving down to this is fun. Bam Bam Tai Tuivasa versus Craig, Prince of War Hardy, isn't it? For as long as this lasted, 1 minute and 7 seconds. God, these guys were just carnage. Tuivasa came out. What's that? He came out of the Spice Girls for starters, and then landed some heavy leg kicks to start off the fight. And then there was just this moment of carnage where Hardy rocked Tuivasa heavily, came in to finish the job. Tuivasa, boom, took his lights out. A little bit of ground and pound afterwards, not that it was needed, but he put Hardy to sleep. All of 1 minute and 7 seconds. And then he did about 50 shoeys. I'd say he was hammered by the time he went back. I'll explain for those that don't know. Shoey, which is, I don't think anybody else does it. I don't know, is it an Australian thing or is it a Bam Bam Tuivasa thing? But it's where he pours a beer into someone else's shoe and drinks it. But yeah, he done that with a few people on the way out. It was hilarious. And then one guy put Dustin Poirier's hot sauce with a beer in the shoe, and it looked like Tuivasa nearly puked. But yeah, fun. What a fun character, and what a good win. Glad to see him win. I knew that was going to be carnage at some point, but yeah, it's always fun to watch. Both guys are always pretty fun. Greg Hardy looked fucking huge in that cage. Even with beside Tuivasa, he looked huge. But yeah, just heavy hands, man. He's such a heavy puncher. Both guys are such heavy punchers. That's why the heavyweight division can be so much fun sometimes. But yeah, there's not a whole lot to say about that fight other than Hardy got put to sleep, and not a lot to really dissect or recap. But yeah, it was fun. Moving on. Speaking of fun, this was not. Gilbert Burns versus Stephen Wonderboy Thompson. Now, it wasn't a terrible fight, it was just not the most exciting, which tends to happen with Wonderboy fights, because he's just such a hard guy to read and stuff like that. But in the end, yeah, Gilbert Burns won. Just domination on the ground, which what most people expected. There was some moments here or there for both guys, but just his control on the ground. I think Wonderboy had looked good in round 2. I think possibly maybe it could have gone to him, but yeah, Burns controlled it then with the grappling outside of that. Good win for him, he needed that. Obviously it's not the most exciting thing, but at the end of the day the guy needed a win after getting beat up by Usman in his last fight. So this is what he needs in his quest back to the title. Whether, yeah, I don't know who he'll get next. I'd imagine it's not going to be for the title next, considering. Oh fuck, I'm so sorry I keep yawning. I was up this morning at 6 o'clock to watch the Euro 2020 final. But yeah, it's catching up with me now. But yeah, yeah, so Gilbert Burns controlled the fight with his grappling, which again, what we expected. Yeah, what I was saying is, I don't know, will he get a shot at the title next? There's a few guys kind of in line there. I know Usman is due to fight Colby Covington, but I mean, will the Burns' next fight be title? I don't know. It's hard to know. That division is kind of, it's good, but it's kind of irritating because there's a lot of guys who don't want to fight each other, but they all want to wait to fight Usman, which shouldn't be the case, really. You know, Usman should be the one who gets to pick and choose. That's you know, when you're champ, that's how it is. But yeah, fun division all the same. But I just mean, it's like there's a long queue to get a shot at Usman, where really shouldn't be the case. Should all be fighting each other to prove, you know, to be undeniable. Anyway, moving on to fucking main event. It's so annoying, this. So obviously a lot of talking points here. I'm sure most people know the story by now, but McGregor versus Poirier 3. We've had so many discussions about this fight already. I'm tired of talking about it, mostly of Conor McGregor, but I'll give my opinion on it all the same. I thought he looked good. McGregor looked good when he first, you know, he came out and landed some heavy leg kicks. Already looked much better than he did in the first fight, the second fight. Yeah, he was throwing some heavy leg kicks on Poirier. Then there came a grappling exchange to where McGregor kind of made a mistake. He went to jump into a guillotine, and it looked tight. one point, but then Poirier slipped out, and obviously he was in a great position to be landing some heavy shots on McGregor. I don't want to say he had him in serious trouble, but he was in a pretty dominant position, and he was landing some nice elbows, definitely knocking some wind out of McGregor and putting a stamp on the round. So he would have won that round, but there was about what I remember, like 10 seconds to go, and they were separated, and McGregor popped up back against the cage, and something happens where he takes a step back and just completely snaps his fucking, I think it's his shin bone. No idea what happened. There's a lot of people saying that there's no way he could have broke his ankle just by stepping back awkwardly, or broke his shin just by stepping back awkwardly. He would have had to have broken into kicks. But for me, I didn't see where. I didn't see, or like, there was a point where Poirier pointed, like as if to say, I checked that kick. But there was no show from McGregor. His leg looked fine. A lot of the kicks looked to be landing. If they went near the knee, it was the back of the knee, which I know was risky, of course. But yeah, I didn't see where he snapped it. It obviously, it's very hard to break a shin that way just by stepping back. But maybe McGregor's legs were tired. Maybe cramped up. I don't know. It was a horrible break, it really was. But I couldn't see where he could have snapped it on the leg kicks. The only thing I think is that maybe it's a case of stepping back awkwardly, and after throwing all the kicks that maybe the nerves were slightly dead or something. I don't know. But it was a horrible break. It was horrible to see, for both guys, because obviously now the question is there that the fight wasn't really finished. Even though I know people are going to say, but Poirier had won that round. But he won that round, but I don't think it was clear enough to say he was definitely going to win. But at the same time, then I'll argue the other way, that I don't know if we really need to see a fourth fight. I know everyone wants it, Dana White wants it, but I mean, yeah, Poirier didn't necessarily finish the fight, but I mean, in a fight, the winner is the last man standing kind of thing, I don't know, does McGregor really deserve a fourth shot? That's just me being honest. I'm a McGregor fan, I'm Irish, I'll always support him, and I'm arguing his point a lot, but I'm not sure, does he deserve a fourth shot? I don't see the point in it either. I've said this so many times, it's like when people fight twice and one guy wins both and then people look for a third time. I don't see where it works. I know it's going to happen now possibly with Max Holloway and Alex Volkanovski. That's different. Holloway has done, I've had this discussion, I've already said this on the podcast, but Holloway has done some crazy things. He's elevated himself in a way where you can't deny him. This is not the same case. Yeah, I don't know. At the same time, there's a lot of things up in the air. I saw McGregor had a tweet out there a while ago saying surgery went well and he's doing okay and all that. Looking, I think it's something like 6 months out, and be back soon or whatever. Will he be right after that? You don't know. With all your money, do you really want to come back? I know that's always the question for McGregor, but yeah, can't take it away from Poirier. Poirier did well. I know he didn't cause the injury necessarily. He didn't put a stamp on winning the fight. But he has every right not to fight McGregor again if he doesn't want to. But he's not denying that he will. He's kind of saying that he thinks it's such bad blood between them now that they have to do it again. Yeah. I don't know. It's anticlimactic. Climactic. Whatever that word is, anticlimactic, I think is the word. It just didn't, for both guys. Again, people know, like, I've been leaning towards McGregor, but I like Poirier. You just prefer to see the fight finish that way. It's better, or not finish that way. It's better for McGregor, obviously, if you have a choice between actually getting finished or getting injured. Injured looks better. But then it just leaves slight questions over for especially casual fucking moron fans. But yeah, Conor McGregor fights actually exhaust me more than any other fights. There's just so much bullshit around them. There's so many fans who are super casual, speaking more than anybody about their opinion on it. insulting Dustin Poirier, you're not worth shit, McGregor's gonna whoop your ass, and then it's like the other way, the McGregor haters are like, oh, he was, he's a fake, he's this, he's that, and he's so insulting, but yet he's the best thing since sliced bread when he first came out. Now, I had this discussion with a friend of mine over and back. I absolutely understand why people dislike McGregor. He does that to himself. I totally get it. I just think there's a lot of people dislike him, and that blinds their opinion. Like they don't have a real opinion. It's just the hate of McGregor is all they see. There's no like, all of a sudden he's not a good fighter. He's not, you forget about the guy he was, forget about how good he was, forget about how good he is. He's just scumbag this, scumbag that. And again, don't agree with a lot of what he says. For me, he's always been so much fun. I didn't like it on both ends for the Khabib fight. I thought that whole fight was just a dark cloud over it. I never liked it. I didn't like any of the over and back between. I know Khabib is more quiet, but there's a lot of shit with Ali Abdelaziz, Khabib's manager, and McGregor, and it was just too dark. I didn't like it. That, in my opinion, was the worst of Conor McGregor. And I know a lot of stories come out afterwards, or he wasn't taking the camp seriously and all that, which is his fault, his problem. But there's just a lot of darkness within that fight. I didn't like it. This one, not nearly as bad, but there's been a little bit of stuff that McGregor's been saying, insulting Poirier's wife, and I'm not for that, if I'm being honest. I don't like that. But that's the game he plays. That is all. I know people say, oh, he wasn't like that before, but he was. I mean, he was telling, Jose Aldo that he was his father, come over here and sit in your daddy's lap, this kind of shit. That's very insulting to a man as well. Maybe some people think it's not the same because he says it in a cooler way or whatever, but I tend to disagree. McGregor has always been this way. He is the bad guy, whether you like it or not. He is, again, some of the things he says I don't like. I'm not supporting everything he says. I'm just saying, I don't know. I don't know why people all of a sudden have like taken this high road of like, oh no, he's very wrong for the sport. There's a huge thing that I think happens in MMA with casuals and with big fans, people who are big fans of sport. They want to complain about fighters that are there currently. Like Khabib, I've said this again to a friend of mine, but Khabib was super boring. It was too boring. As soon as Khabib retired, people wanted him back. GSP, one of the greats, super boring. Too boring in his interviews, too boring in his fights. But everyone wanted him back when he left. This is the same now. McGregor is too bad for the sport. He's, shines a bad light on the sport. All this kind of shit. When McGregor's gone, you're not going to have another McGregor. You'll have all these guys like your Sean O'Malley's and all that want to be like him. They're not going to be like him. And when he's gone, people are going to feel that too. They're going to notice the difference. Because at the end of the day, he brings massive money, massive light to the sport. Is it always nice? No, of course not. But that's the reason. Like, you need to have these people in the sport. You gotta have these assholes. You gotta have your Colby Covingtons, your Chael Sonnens, your Conor McGregors. These guys who do all the talking. Otherwise, you can't have everybody like GSP. You can't have everybody like Khabib or Wonderboy Thompson. You can't have all these nice guys. It's, you gotta have your bad guys in the sport, and some guys do that to hype themselves up. I know people are talking how McGregor was different in this press conference. He wasn't the same guy, but he's not the same guy. He's not going to come out with these perfect lines all the time, and these fucking quotes that you're going to be putting on t-shirts and hashtagging online. It's not always going to be that case. That's just my opinion. I think McGregor brings out some of the worst fans. Not his fault. It's just because he reaches out to so many. It's a bit like the Logan Paul shit in the boxing, or the Paul brothers shit. You got these halfway fans. I'm not going to do too much commenting on boxing. I've said that all the time. I'm not a big fan. I don't give enough of a discussion. I like to talk about it and ask about it. But I don't like it. Don't like these fans that jump on the bandwagon. They watch 3 fights a year and then they want to go insulting Dustin Poirier, or they want to go the other way, insulting McGregor. But for the rest of the year, they don't know who all these guys are. And there's so many fucking great fighters out there. If you're going to have an opinion on the sport, have an opinion, but keep an eye on it for the rest of the year too, But that's just my opinion. And that's not to say that people have a right to talk about the sport. Of course, I'm not saying that. The more people that talk about it, the better. I like it. I'm not saying that not saying you have to watch it all the time, but if just don't be getting up there fucking insulting other fighters. If you're not watching the sport, don't be insulting McGregor or insulting Poirier or watching the fight and then say, oh, he's such a pussy, and you see all of this stuff. You see it online, And there's nothing wrong with a casual fan. That's fine, but be a respectful casual fan. That's all I'd say. But yeah, you get it like again with the celeb. You see all the celebs in the crowd and all that. That's just it's the power that McGregor brings to a fight and stuff like that. I'm going around in circles here. I don't even know what my point is, but I'm just saying, that. What am I fucking trying to say? Take things with a pinch of salt. With Conor McGregor again, though you don't have to agree with everything he does, but you don't have to hate the guy either. You can watch him and want him to lose. The main thing I'll say, this is actually what I was getting to, and I mean this out of everything I say. If you watched that fight yesterday and you enjoyed seeing McGregor break his leg, then in my opinion, you're an asshole. And that goes for any fighter you watch, whether you're watching Anderson Silva that did it, Chris Weidman, whoever it may be. If you enjoy that, you shouldn't be watching the sport, and you have to really look at yourself. Don't be looking at the fucking fights. Take a look at yourself, because that's the issue. If you're celebrating that, I get it, that you think, you don't like McGregor and all that, and you can say, oh, that's karma from the bad person you are. Fair enough, get that. But if you're celebrating it, if you enjoy that kind of thing, then you shouldn't be watching the sport. The sport is not for you. It truly isn't. Listen, there's fighters in the sport I dislike. There's guys who I think are assholes. Colby Covington being one. But at the same time, I like that Colby Covington is in the sport too. It needs these guys. You can't have everything perfect and PC. Again, I don't totally like something about it. You kind of want good to triumph over evil. I wanted McGregor to win, of course, but then you see Poirier win, and it is like good won over evil. That's kind of what they're setting up. Of course, McGregor's not an evil guy. It is a character he's playing. At the end of the day, I know. Like again, I had a discussion with a friend who felt that McGregor showed weakness in the way he acted in the build-up. I understand his point, and I understand other people's points who've said that too. Okay, fair enough. Do I agree? No, not necessarily, but McGregor is this character. He's going to be outlandish. He's going to be saying things you don't agree with, and he has said it from the beginning. Go back, I know he's given some great interviews where he said some Mystic Mac and all that stuff. He's not been a nice guy though. He's said some bad things all along the way. Just some are a little nicer than the others. And this thing of like, oh, don't bring family into it. While I agree, don't bring family into it, but yet we're okay with like, I'm going to fucking take your head off inside that cage, I'm going to choke you. These guys are going to go in there to try and separate themselves from, or separate their opponents from consciousness. But then it's like, oh, can't believe he said that about his wife. Sometimes it goes together, Not all guys are these like Bruce Lee martial artists who are super nice and they say nice things and they respect and they bow and all that. Of course, it's great to see that. In fact, I'm a fan that I like to see guys go to war and then they shake hands and all that afterwards. But I also like to see the other side too. You like to see the bad blood. Some of the most watched fights in history have been bad blood. In fact, probably all of the most watched fights in history have had bad blood. That's what we like to watch. I know there's the discussion, of course, of McGregor, the way he was the nice guy in the second fight and then the bad guy for this one, and people wonder, what's with the big switch. I don't know, to be honest. Maybe he felt he performed better that way, or maybe he felt he was it sounded to me like he felt he was disrespected by Poirier for being the nice guy. I didn't see where he felt disrespected, to be honest. Poirier has been pretty respectful, so I don't know, but I can't give an answer on that. Again, I'm going round in circles here, but it's just my opinion. I think people kind of go, oh my god, I can't believe you said that. Like, if you're gonna, I get it, like McGregor doing the thing with Poirier's wife's DMs and, what did he say at the press conference, your wife is your husband. I understand all that. It's not that bad though. It isn't that bad. I don't believe you should bring someone's family into anything. But he has done this before. And it's just coming to my head now that he said something. Like, the point I'm trying to make, if I can get it out of my brain, is that people are kind of pointing out that this is new because McGregor's on a downward slide, now he's being an asshole. It's not new. He has done it plenty of times. I'm trying to think of what he said about Eddie Alvarez, which is probably McGregor's greatest performance. Everyone will agree with that, I'm sure. Like, I think, in my opinion, it's one of the best performances from a fighter in the UFC in such a big fight. But he had said something, because I know it pissed Eddie Alvarez off. I'll be a while looking for it, so I'm not going to try. But something in the form of, your kids are not going to recognise you, or something like that. Something along those lines, where he didn't necessarily insult the kids, but that's not a nice thing to say. You know, something like your kids are not going to recognise you, or, you know, how many times he brought up, like, call your wife, it's going to be red panty night. It's, again, about Aldo, and, like, he pissed off Aldo more than anyone, and that was in his early day. Chad Mendes he insulted a ton. People need to remember he's been an asshole through a lot of it. If you really want to talk about any fight, and I'll agree with you, is I didn't like the way he was for the Khabib fight. But again, that was on the other side too. Khabib didn't say much, but Khabib's team said a lot. In particular, Ali Abdelaziz. So, yeah, I don't, like, people need to kind of, just because now he's on, I don't know what my point is again, but I don't like the people, because now he's on kind of a downward slope, that now they don't like it, or now we don't, oh, that's wrong what he's doing. But it was good all along, because it was funny and because he was winning. Now, you need to pay attention. He hasn't always been nice. McGregor has played the bad guy all along. He's always played the bad guy, and we've supported it. I mean, I've loved it. Again, from the beginning, haven't always agreed with what he said. But you either support it or you don't. Don't change just because now he's losing. And I know, of course, it doesn't look as good when you're not winning, you know, having that brash thing, but it's always been the way. You know, I loved his attitude after the first Nate Diaz loss. Thought that was great. But, you know, we can't pick and choose. I guess that's my point. Yeah, I'm kind of worn out talking about him, that's probably why I'm going around in circles. But again, I understand why people dislike him, and I understand why people like him. But there is no in between. You either like what he says or you don't. You can't go, oh, but this time he was really good and he was really humble, but this I don't like. No, because it's always been the same guy. Go back and have a look. Maybe you can go to the real early fights where he didn't have that character because he wasn't making enough money. And, you know, he slowly building that character. When he became Mystic Mac, you know, he was saying a lot of those things. He was insulting all along, you know, all the way through. And let's be honest, the stuff is not that bad. It's not like, I know you said about Poirier's wife, Dean. Okay, like, fucking, the worst comment, if you want to, that I can think of right now, which, no, of course, nobody brings up because he's not Conor McGregor. Worst comment I have ever heard from a fighter that I can think of anyway right now. You got to remember Colby Covington talking about Matt Hughes. He was talking to, who the fuck was he insulting? Man, was it Robbie Lawler? I can't remember, but he was insulting somebody and saying, I'm going to run through you like a train did your coach, or something along those lines. He sort of like made fun of the fact that Matt Hughes has been hit by a train. That's bad, because you're insulting a UFC legend along with the fighter, you know. So, listen, these guys do that. That's why Covington is the bad guy. That's why McGregor's been the bad guy, you know. I'm getting tired. But, yeah, again, my point at the bottom of it all is, again, you like him or you don't. There is no in between. I get you on both sides. I get, if you don't like him, that's fair enough. I get that. If you do like him, I get that too. I am a fan. Don't always agree with what he says, but I understand. I know what he's doing. He's been doing it all along. It doesn't change just because he's losing that you go, oh no, that's wrong. I can't say that. Yeah, you can. He has said it all along. Go back. If you don't believe me, go back to his early days. He makes some great speeches in the early days. Don't get me wrong, made some great, like, he's who the fuck is that guy, and he's much more fun. The great Irish humour was there, and I loved all that, don't get me wrong, but it hasn't all of a sudden just got super dark. McGregor has been insulting all along the way. Maybe his thing is not as much fun now, but look, his things are different. I mean, the man has made so much money. I don't understand why he's even fighting, if I'm being honest. Yeah, I don't understand why he's still fighting. If I were him, I'd stop. There is no whole lot for him to do. Had he won this fight, and I'd said this, I can't remember who I said, maybe I said this on the Instagram, but had he won this fight, I don't think he was going to fight for the title. I don't think there's enough there for him. Maybe he was, maybe I'm wrong, I don't know, but I just don't think there was enough I mean, he won the 2 belts previously. He's made so much money. A fight with Oliveira is a fun fight, but the build-up is not great, you know. Now, the Diaz-3 fight will be fun, which I'd imagine that's probably what he's going to do next, if not the Poirier fight 4, which I don't agree with. But, yeah, I don't know. I don't know. Like, I would not be too pumped for a 4th fight between the two of them. But of course, if they both want it, they'll get it, I'm sure. Even Black Poirier has asked for it. McGregor said he wants it, so probably will get it. I don't know. But yeah, after all that exhausting talk, I guess my entire point is, yeah, McGregor has always been that way. I just don't agree with people all of a sudden taking the high road of like, oh no, I don't like this. And if you don't like him, you're entitled to your opinion. I do understand it. I get why people would dislike him. But dislike him from the beginning. Don't like him and then all of a sudden hate him, you know. But it just brings out the most irritating fans. Brings a great shine on the sport. McGregor always has done. Brings heaps of people in. But it just brings these... I'm not taking a high horse myself saying, oh, the uneducated fans. Not that they're uneducated, it's just that they're so opinionated but they don't watch the sport. That's my only point. And I'm not referring to anyone that I have discussed with over the last few days. That's not what I'm saying, because there's a few people I've been talking to about this. It's not any of you fucking assholes. But, no, it's what I see online. And I gotta stop reading comments, but you see so many comments like insulting me. And it's on both sides. I'm not just trying to stick up for fucking McGregor here. I don't like, and I said that in the rematch, that so many people, I'd seen so many comments about how Poirier doesn't belong in there with McGregor. Like, how dare you? If you look at the resume that Dustin Poirier has, it's fucking insane. It's like, the guys he's beaten and the guys he has fought, it's an insane resume. Some of the top guys that have ever fought in the UFC and elsewhere. Great fighter, great character, so good for the sport. His wife got... I didn't see it during the fight, but the pictures are circling around afterwards, where she gave McGregor the finger after, you know, while he was lying on the ground. I think it was while he was talking with Joe Rogan. And, you know, she got her own little piece back there, so credit to her. And he's still making comments. And again, I didn't like the way he acted in the octagon, you know, after. It's not, for me, I just don't like it. I think he's smarter than that, but yeah, that has been him. It's always been him. Whether it gets a little bit dark and you don't like it, fair enough. I understand. I do get people's points, but I'm telling you, that has always been him. He's always insulted people. You know, whether it rubs you the wrong way a little bit or not, but look down through the years, those comments have always been there. You can't just start picking and choosing now. But I don't know what's going to happen. My honest opinion, he's going to come back and do the Diaz-3 fight. That'd be fun. That'd be fun. A fun build-up. Good money for Nate Diaz as well. You know. I'd like to see that. Even if he comes back healthy, does he beat Poirier? It's hard to say. Like, he looked good for as long as we got to see that fight. He did look good. I mean, he would have survived the first round, even though he's in a bit of shit at the end, had he not broke his leg. And he did. He was throwing some nice spinning kicks, stuff like that. So you can't really say that Poirier was going to beat him anyway. So I don't agree. But I can't say that he wasn't either, you know, because it was... Yeah, he had him in a bit of trouble. But down to a McGregor mistake, you know, jumping for the guillotine. So it's just annoying. I think, it's annoying on both sides. You'd rather see, you know, if McGregor got finished, he stamps the Poirier mark on the fight, or the other way around, if McGregor got the finish. Or it would have been nice to see the two of them go to war. Because I don't like the bad blood between the two of them, because I'm not sure if it's real. You know, a lot of it is built from McGregor's comments and stuff like that. So Poirier is pissed off, and, you know, when there's that much build up to a fight and you only get one round, but one round of where one guy is doing well, then the other guy is doing well, and then it's an injury that ends it. Neither guy really got what he wanted, you know, got to unleash what he wanted on the other guy, I suppose. So yeah, maybe that's a good point as to why they'll do it again. I don't know. But listen, my opinion, you look at the record books. Excuse me, Poirier has won that fight. So yeah, yeah, a lot of heavy discussion there, but yeah. I saw a tweet, again, for all these people who are hating and picking and giving out about McGregor. You look at, like, I know he's, again, you want to bring up his record. Yeah, he has a pretty shit record in the last few years. But in the last few years, he's also fought Khabib. He has fought fucking Floyd Mayweather. Fought Poirier. He won against Cowboy. So, listen, his record is not great, don't get me wrong. But that's just the way the sport is now. These guys who make more money. But yeah, sorry, what I was going to say was, if you look at, like, the three biggest stars now in the UFC, arguably if you want, but three biggest stars in the UFC are probably Jorge Masvidal, Conor McGregor, and Nate Diaz. All guys who are on losses. Any of those guys come back, there's nobody that outsells them. Nobody. And I know people can say, oh, well, Masvidal hasn't lost as much as McGregor, or whatever way you want to look at it. They all have losing records. More than one loss as well. But people kind of want to pick and choose, because McGregor speaks, he's an asshole, because, and people shit on the Diaz brothers, they're punchy and they're, but at the end of the day, they are the three biggest stars in the UFC right now. I don't give a shit if you say about, Usman or whoever, Holloway, these guys who I am also a huge fan of, but these are the three biggest stars right now. They leave, which, let's be honest, they're all on the brink of that. Maybe Masvidal will stick around a bit longer, but Diaz brothers are going to be gone soon. McGregor is going to be gone. He's probably gone already. Masvidal hasn't got a lot left. Those guys go. Who are your superstars? There's nobody in that sport that's going to be anything like those guys. Nobody. Maybe somebody that we haven't seen yet, but, there's nobody there right now. Sean O'Malley, in my opinion, he's fun and all that. I just don't know if he's as big a star as some of the other guys. Adesanya obviously has that potential as well, but I just don't know if he's that big. I'm not sure. But yeah, sometimes it's just, you don't know what the mixture is to make that superstar. But just wanted to make that point. Like, people talk about losing records, but the biggest superstars in MMA and in the UFC have losing records. You're talking superstars, If you want to talk greatest fighters, of course, those three are not the greatest fighters, but you're talking about stars, selling power, big names, But yeah, just wanted to point that out. But yeah, that's all. Again, I'm fucking exhausted. First off, from being up early to watch that football, and for the talking about McGregor. I'm sick of talking about him. It's just because he really just takes over an entire card, doesn't he? When he fights, which of course that's his star power. I just wanted to say, because I don't know, did I say it earlier? But the bonuses were obviously O'Malley and Moutinho got the fight of the night, but the performance of the night went to Tuivasa and Duplessis. It says in brackets here, Aldana will also give a bonus will get a bonus. Dana White had said in the press conference that he was going to give her a bonus afterwards. Just he announced that after. He said to, like, one of his colleagues to remind him, and he would give her a bonus. So, yeah, just in case I didn't say that earlier, I can't even remember. But anyway, that is it in terms of the card. What a fight card all around. I know it ended quite shit, but it's such a fucking crazy sport when you think about it. All the build up and all of that, and then that's the way it ends. I mean, the sport never ceases to kind of shock you or throw up I don't know what the word I'm looking for, throw up a joker card or something just to change things or to fucking mess with things. I don't know. It never ceases to do these kind of things. But yeah, it is a shame the way it ended. But look, credit to Poirier, did what he had to do. He was healthy, and in the history books it goes down as a win. He's 2-1 up on McGregor, so what can you really say? But that's that for this week. I have some little clips at the end of the show, but I'm going to just quickly talk about next week's card. Excuse me. So yeah, it's Makhachev versus Moises, and just run through the prelims. So opening up the prelims at heavyweight, Alan Bodot versus Rodrigo Ferreira, Francisco Figueiredo versus Malcolm Gordon. Anderson Dos Santos versus Miles Johns. Khalid Taha versus Sergey Morozov. And then women's strawweight, Amanda Lemos versus Montserrat Ruiz. Welterweight, Preston Parsons versus Daniel Rodriguez. And that's the prelims. And then the main card is Gabriel Benitez versus Billy Quarantillo. Dustin Stoltzfus versus Rodolfo Vieira. Jeremy Stevens versus Mateus Gamrot. Fun fight. Marion Renault versus Misha Tate returns next week. Fuck, I didn't know that. Ooh, interesting. So Marion Renault versus Misha Tate next week in the co-main. Interesting. The main event, the guy that nobody wants to fight, Islam Makhachev versus Thiago Moises. So yeah, that should be fun. But that's it. That's the card for this week. Couple of videos, like I said before. We're going to start showing these little clips. I find 3 or 4, 5, maybe 6 clips of whatever it may be, some form of violence or combat around the world. Now these are quite new compared to the last time I did it, but they're not that new. It's been a couple of weeks because I didn't do a video last week. But it's of, I'm sure everyone has heard, or if they haven't heard, this Joe Schilling incident where he knocked some guy out of the bar. Yeah, so the backstory before I play it is this video went viral. Joe Schilling has some bar, I don't know where the fucking bar was, but you see kind of a confrontation. It's a pretty quick video. It's 48 seconds here, but it's pretty quick the way it happens. So some guy at a bar, you see him in a tie and stuff, and Joe Schilling walks into the picture and there's a slight confrontation, and then what happens. But I'll play the video here for you and you can see what I'm talking about. So it happens pretty quick. So here we go. So you see this guy at the bar and he's talking and he's shaping or whatever. You see Joe Schilling come into the picture in the background here. Bit of a confrontation. Yikes. Schilling hits him with a pretty quick 1-2. Yeah. I'll play that once more just so you can see it. Here we go. So you see the guy again standing at the bar, not doing much, but there's a slight conflict. You can't hear what's being said, but something is definitely said because Joe Schilling attempts to walk away, then turns back, and the guy squares up to him. Bad idea squaring up to Joe Schilling. There was a discussion going around, like I know people were saying, oh what an asshole, and Joe Schilling looked like he was up for a fight the way he walked up, and he kind of did. But I mean, Joe Schilling is a super experienced fighter, is one of Cowboys' coaches, one of down at Cowboys from his friends. But then you hear the story behind it that apparently this guy had been drunk kind of throughout the, I don't know when it is, morning, evening, night, wherever it was, and like had been kind of acting like an asshole. Apparently he had made some comments towards Joe Schilling earlier, and that he had been slightly racist to some of the staff. He was like rapping along to some songs and he was using the N-word and things like that. So apparently he'd been a bit of an asshole. Before I'd heard any of that, I looked at the video, I had a feeling something, because you see Joe Schilling walking by and he kind of, yes, you want to say he nudges, but the guy backs into him. So Schilling kind of, not necessarily a push, kind of shields him off, walks away, and you see like he's kind of like, you know, nodding at the guy. It clearly says something, and he squares up to Schilling first. In my opinion, you have a choice. You know, you have a choice. Your choices lead to results. You know, you make a choice to square up to somebody, people react. Sometimes people react. I think a lot of guys, people in general, you know, forget that. If you want to square up and get into a fight stance with somebody, sometimes you're going to meet a Joe Schilling who's going to knock your fucking head off. There was a lot of tweets and stuff that were coming out after he was releasing messages from some girl that said, you know, thank you, that guy is my ex and he used to beat me and stuff like that. Whether any of this is true, I don't know, but apparently the guy deserved what he got. Yeah, Joe Schilling is not the guy to fuck around with. And all people like to say, oh, finally Joe Schilling won a fight. But Joe Schilling is a fucking animal. He's a serious kickboxer, and you know, if you're your average Joe, you know, excuse the pun, like, but if you're your average Joe, you don't want to be squaring up to guys like that. Clearly you see in the video the guy had a few beers and stuff, but he had more than a hangover the next day. But yeah, I thought that I wanted to talk about that. And then there was this one, which was Hector Lombard. I'll just talk about it before I play it. It was in, I keep kind of mixing up these names. It was one of the bare knuckle organisations. I don't know, it's Bare Knuckle FC, sorry. So at Bare Knuckle FC 18, Joe Schilling fought Joe Riggs. Hector Lombard fought Joe Riggs. And after the fight, there was a square up between a guy called Lorenzo Hunter. Unfortunately, I don't know much about that guy, but he squared up to Hector Lombard, and you see the result here. Play the video. So Lombard just wasn't having it. I don't know. Again, I'm not too sure of the backstory behind this. I just know, I think these guys were set to fight beforehand. They've had some discussions, and they were supposed to fight before. And again, you know, squaring up to guys sometimes leads to certain results. Now this is different because they're both fighters. But he hit him hard, like. Yeah, I don't know. I have heard some stories about Hector Lombard. He's not the most fun guy to train with either. A lot of guys didn't want to train with him because a bit of an asshole when it came to sparring. Now whether it's true or not, I don't know, but he certainly hit that guy hard a couple of times. He wasn't long backing off. But I think, I'm not 100%, I'm pretty sure the two of them now were set up to fight at some point in bare knuckle. What the fuck would you want to fight Hector Lombard in bare knuckle for? That's insane. Then we have this other thing. This is just something that caught my attention recently. It's a thing called Kings of the Streets Fight Club, and it's insane how kind of martial arts is kind of going full circle. You know, in the beginning with the MMA and the UFC and all that, like, it was so hard to get it. What's the word I'm looking for? To get it, to allow it to be shown on TV and stuff like that. Sorry, I can't think of the word. But yeah, because it was too brutal. It was cockfighting, human cockfighting in a cage, all that. But now it's like things have gone full circle, and bare knuckle and all that now has become fun, and there's so many of these different versions of organisations coming out. Now I know they're not up there at the UFC, I'm not saying that, but it's just funny how it's kind of come full circle. Things have sort of come around to now people want to see these bare knuckle street fights and stuff like that. But anyway, before I play the video, I noticed this Kings of the Streets thing. So it's like where these guys go down, they have a brawl in just this, looks like something out of a movie. It's like this caged off area. It's not a legit ring or cage or anything like that. It's just literally street fights, but they're pretty brutal. And I found this one short video. It's like 1 minute 20 seconds. Pretty brutal knockout. But I've been trying to get in contact with these guys. I don't know how new they are. The videos are pretty new on the page and stuff. Been trying to get in contact and see if somebody's willing to come on for an interview to get some more story behind it, to, you know, where did this come from. But the production and stuff looks pretty good. As you see, I'll play the video here. You see the production and stuff is pretty cool, and I don't know what the rules are, but it looks like you can do pretty much everything. There's kicks and there's headbutts and there's all that sort of thing. Looks like something out of a movie. But you see, they show us this fight here. It's a pretty quick fight. The one guy pretty happy to be there. Yeah, see, like, they got a big crowd and stuff around it, and it almost looks like it's a movie set. I need to find out some more and see if I can get some guy on to have a chat. So here we go, the fight's kicking off. Ooh. See, that's a heavy knockout. And he's just stiffened up, like. You see, they can use kicks, and I've seen some other clips where they're headbutting and stuff like that. You know, it's pretty fucking insane. I really want to get someone on to talk about it. One thing I don't like, I'm not overly against all this. It's kind of crazy, obviously. But, I'll quickly play the knockout again, sorry. I'll just go back to where the fight starts. There we go. And see that the trunk kicks and everything, and it's just where the guy falls, it's on concrete. That's what I don't like about it. I've had that discussion with, I'll stop the video. So I've had that discussion with, James Quinn McDonough, who was on the podcast previously, talking about, the gypsy bare knuckle fights and, like these street fights and stuff like that. Nothing necessarily wrong with it. Well, there's a lot wrong with it. It's just, if guys want to do that, they want to do it, I get it. But I just think if you're going to do something like that, you got to have it in an enclosed area so you don't have two guys backing off for fucking 2 hours. You see it happens in a lot of the bare knuckle, in the gypsy, the traveller fights. Some guys that fight for 2 hours, and if you're legitimately fighting, you're not going to last 2 hours. It's because there's just too much space to back off and in and out. The other thing is not on concrete. I've seen it in particular in the traveller fights. Guys getting knocked out and their head just smashing off the ground. It's not good. That's permanent damage. It's just not good. Like, I think, my honest opinion, if you're going to do it on the streets, do it on the streets, but put down mats. Have it in a matted area. Do it on grass even if you want to do that. I know the grass doesn't work then, it's quite slippy, but not on concrete. I think it's just too dangerous. Or just do it in a ring. You can still do it in a ring or a cage or some modification. Let's try that again. Some modified version of a cage or a ring. But just, softer surface. Still go bare knuckles, still go whatever rules you want. But just do it in an enclosed area where it's a little softer. But that looks fun. That's it, it looks fun, but it looks somewhat entertaining. Again, I'm going to keep trying to contact them, see if I can get somebody on for a conversation, and I've been trying to find some of their names and stuff like that, so I will do some more research and see if I can get somebody on for a chat. That'll be fun. And the other thing is, these slap fights, you see these guys, they're like just standing at a table and one guy hits, and if he doesn't get knocked out, you got to take another hit. But the only organisation I found is, I think it's in Poland or somewhere in Eastern Europe, and a lot of guys are Polish or stuff like that. So I messaged them as well to see if I can get a guy to come on, or a woman or whatever, have a discussion about that. It'd be fun. But yeah, still trying to set up some of those interviews, but it'd be entertaining to get someone like that on to talk about these crazy organisations. But anyway, guys, that is it. Hope you've enjoyed it. Hope you've enjoyed it. It's annoying. One thing I wanted to mention as well, after the Euros are just finished now in the final and all that today, I'd love to be discussing it, recapping it, but in time I will have a football podcast as well. That's a promise, because I'm too big of a fan of football not to do a little bit of that as well. But it's one of the things I'm working on, so that's a little bit of a reveal. But I think I've said that already. I'm working on having similar to this, but football terms. So yeah, I'm not going to bother talking about the final right now because it just doesn't make sense on the Kombat Kingdom segment. But anyway, guys, like I said, hope you've enjoyed it. Appreciate all your support. Please keep supporting us. As I said, I know we're quiet at the moment, but it's not going to be the case for a whole lot longer. It's just this quick little time period where we're working on stuff. So appreciate it, guys. Support us, talk about us, share us, all of that shit. And most importantly, go grab that fucking day. Shouldn't have cursed, sorry, but go grab that day. Peace, guys. Thank you.